So, how do you conquer an empire, not just with armies, but with an idea? Today, we're diving into the rule of the second caliph, Umar. His approach to leadership didn't just win battles, it literally laid the groundwork for a new world order. Okay, so picture this. For centuries, the known world was basically a two-player game. You had the Byzantine Empire in one corner and the Persians in the other. I mean, these guys were the titans of their age, locked in this epic struggle that honestly seemed like it was just going to go on forever. But all of that was about to get turned completely upside down. This whole established order was on the verge of a massive seismic shift because there was this new force emerging from the Arabian Peninsula, driven by a new faith and a new vision, and they were about to step onto the world stage and challenge everything. And here's the thing, this wasn't just another conquest. No way. The reason everything happened so fast, well, it wasn't just about swords and shields. It was powered by something way more potent than military strategy. It was driven by a whole new idea of leadership, a totally different way of thinking about power. So what was this revolutionary idea? To really get it, our story kicks off with the campaign for Syria and Palestine. And it all leads up to this one siege, which sets the stage for one of the most, truly remarkable encounters in all of history. And listen to how fast this happened. It was just stunning. In 636, the Byzantine army, which everyone thought was invincible, gets shattered at the Battle of Yarmouk. Just 6 months later, the super-fortified city of Damascus falls. And by 637, we're talking less than 2 years after that first big battle, the armies are right at the gates of Jerusalem. You know, a city holy to pretty much everyone in the region. The old world? Yeah, it was crumbling fast. So the leaders inside Jerusalem, they could see the writing on the wall. They knew they couldn't hold out. But here's where things get interesting. Instead of just surrendering to the generals camped outside, they had a condition. A really, really unusual one. They insisted on surrendering the keys to the city, but not to any general. They wanted to hand them over to the Caliph Umar himself, in person. Think about that. They weren't just bowing to an army, they were surrendering to a reputation. They had heard stories about this man's character, and that was who they were willing to deal with. And right here, this is where the whole story pivots. It stops being about a military campaign and becomes this incredible lesson in character. And believe me, what Umar did next would echo for centuries. So when Umar, literally the most powerful man in the region, finally shows up, it's nothing like what anyone expected. No grand procession, no fancy entourage. He traveled with just one servant, and they shared a single camel, taking turns riding. And get this, as they get close to the city gates, it's Omar's turn to walk. So he's leading the camel, and his servant is riding it. You have to imagine the Byzantine leaders seeing this. They're used to emperors dripping in gold. This was just an unbelievable display of humility. It blew their minds. Okay, so he accepts the surrender, it's all peaceful, he gets invited to tour the city, and he finds himself inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. We're talking the most sacred site in all of Christianity. And right then, the time for Muslim prayer comes. So he's offered a place to pray, right there, inside the church. But he politely says no. And his reason? This shows incredible foresight. He basically says, look, if I, the Caliph, pray in here, the Muslims who come after me will say, hey, this is where Omar prayed, and they might try to take it from you and turn it into a mosque. By choosing to pray outside, he was guaranteeing that this church would remain a Christian holy site forever. See, this wasn't just a one-time decision. It was about setting a principle for the future. But here's the crucial part. These stories, they're not just about one man's personal acts of piety. No, Umar's real genius was taking that character, that humility, that foresight, and turning it into a system. A real blueprint for how to run a massive, diverse empire, one built on justice and accountability. So how do you do it? First, he set up a clear administrative structure. You appoint governors to run the provinces. But, and this is the part that was absolutely revolutionary for the time, he also appointed independent judges called qada. Now, what does that mean? It means a governor's power wasn't absolute. There was a check on it. They couldn't just be the ruler, the judge, and the jury. Justice was its own separate, independent thing. The guy was a true system builder. He created all the things a stable empire actually needs. He standardized the calendar, the Hijrah calendar. He set up a public treasury, the Beit Mal, to handle all the state's money. To fight corruption, he started paying state salaries so his officials wouldn't need to take bribes. And the glue holding all this together? a fierce commitment to accountability. He would personally and regularly check up on his own governors to make sure they were actually serving the people fairly. Okay, so you've got this new system, but what about the millions of non-Muslims, right? The Christians and Jews who are now living in this new state. How did it all apply to them? Well, this turned out to be one of the most defining parts of his entire rule. They were given a specific legal status. They were called al-Adadima, and that literally translates to people under protection. And listen, this wasn't just some nice-sounding label. It was a formal legal contract, a binding agreement between the state and its minority communities. And this contract was a two-way street. It had mutual obligations. On one hand, the state was legally required to protect the lives, the property, and the freedom of religion of its non-Muslim citizens. On the other hand, these citizens paid a special tax, the jizya. And this is a really important detail. They were exempt from military service, which was required for Muslims. And they took this contract incredibly seriously. There's this famous story about the general Khalid ibn al-Walid. He had to pull his army out of a city in Syria. And because he could no longer guarantee their protection, you know what he did? He ordered that every single penny of the jizya tax they had paid be returned to them. The state had to hold up its end of the bargain, period. So, when you step back and look at it all, Umar's role really gives us this powerful blueprint for leadership, a leadership that's based on principle, not just on raw power. And you can hear it in his own words. This is what he told his governors. He said, "I am not sending you as a tyrant. I am sending you as a good example. You should make sure that everybody enjoys right and privileges." I mean, that one line, it just captures his entire philosophy. Power wasn't about dominating people. It was a duty, a responsibility to be the standard bearer for justice and to protect the rights of every single person. So if we boil it all down, the hallmarks of his rule are crystal clear, right? You've got this radical humility and simplicity. You've got strict accountability for himself and everyone working for him. You've got justice and real legal protection for minorities. And you got that brilliant foresight to build systems that would last, not just win a few battles. And so all of this history from the 7th century, it kind of leaves us with a very modern question, doesn't it? In our world today, which is so often all about personality and power, what can we learn from a blueprint that was built on humility, accountability, and justice for everyone? It really makes you think, what does it truly mean to be an exemplary ruler today?